There is a common misconception that to be happy, we must be surrounded by others, that the company of another completes us. We are taught from a young age that happiness lies in relationships, in connections, in being seen, and in being heard. Yet we often forget that the deepest connection we will ever experience is with ourselves. To learn to be happy alone is not to retreat from the world, but to discover a richness within that no external experience can match. Solitude, my friends, is not loneliness. It is a profound opportunity, a sacred space in which we meet ourselves fully. In the stillness of being alone, we strip away the distractions, the noise, the expectations of others, and begin to hear the whispers of our true self. There, in that quiet space, is where the seeds of genuine happiness begin to sprout. We often seek validation outside of ourselves, hoping that others will affirm our worth, our place in this world. But in doing so, we become prisoners of other people's opinions, subject to the whims of their approval. Happiness, however, is not a reward given by others, but a realization that resides deep within us. It is born when we recognize that we are complete in our own right, without the need for external validation. The great myth of our time is that we are incomplete, that something or someone else will fill the void within us. But this is an illusion. Wholeness is not something you achieve, it is something you uncover. You are not broken. You do not need fixing. You are already complete, just as a wave is complete in itself, not needing to reach the shore to be fulfilled. In learning to be happy alone, you are invited to dance with silence. Silence is often feared, misunderstood as emptiness, but silence is not empty, it is full of potential. In the quiet, there is a deep wellspring of insight waiting to emerge. When we allow ourselves to be still, to be alone, we are able to tune into the symphony of our inner being, and in that moment we realize that happiness is not something we find outside, but something we awaken within. Aloneness offers a rare gift, the ability to cultivate inner harmony. In this space, there is no need to perform, no need to meet anyone else's expectations. Here we can simply be. And in this state of being, we discover a joy that is untouched by the outer world, an unshakable peace that rests in the heart of who we are. This is the joy of being alive, of existing in the purest sense. Ironically, when we become comfortable with being alone, we are better able to connect with others. No longer seeking someone to complete us, we engage with people from a place of wholeness, which deepens the quality of our relationships. When you are no longer dependent on others for your happiness, you are free to give and receive love without fear or neediness. To learn to be happy alone is to discover the greatest freedom. It is to realize that you are and always have been enough. When you embrace your solitude, you do not close yourself off from the world, you open up to the infinite richness within. And in doing so, you come to see that happiness, true happiness, is your birthright, and it is found not in others, but in the quiet embrace of yourself. This speech gently reminds us that true happiness is cultivated from within through self-discovery and inner peace, which is often best realized in solitude. In a world so filled with noise and constant activity, we often fear solitude, mistaking it for loneliness. But there is a profound difference between being alone and feeling lonely. Loneliness stems from a longing for connection, a desire to fill an inner emptiness with the presence of others. Solitude, on the other hand, is a conscious choice, an embrace of one's own company, and the quiet that comes with it. It is in this state that we are given the opportunity to step away from the distractions of life and dive deeper into the essence of who we are. Solitude is not an escape from the world, but an entry into a richer understanding of it. When we are alone, we are free from the roles we play in front of others. We are not defined by relationships, jobs, or societal expectations. In the stillness of solitude, we meet ourselves as we truly are, without the masks and pretenses we wear in the presence of others. Here we are stripped down to our purest form, and in that space we can begin to explore the depths of our own thoughts, emotions, and consciousness. The fear of being alone often comes from the discomfort of facing our inner landscape. In the silence of solitude, we are confronted with the thoughts and feelings we may have long avoided. But rather than running from this encounter, solitude invites us to sit with it, to become intimate with the parts of ourselves that we may not yet understand. It is in this meeting with our true selves that we begin to heal, to grow, and to find a sense of peace that is not reliant on anything outside of us. In solitude, we come to realize that we are never truly alone. Beneath the surface of our busy minds lies a vast, interconnected reality. When we sit quietly with ourselves, we tap into a sense of oneness with life itself. The boundaries between the self and the world dissolve, and we feel the pulse of existence flowing through us. This connection is not found in the hustle and bustle of daily life, but in the quiet moments where we can listen deeply to the rhythm of our own being. Solitude also teaches us that we are enough as we are. In a world that constantly tells us we need more success, more friends, more validation, solitude offers a different message. It whispers that we are whole, that nothing external is required to complete us. When we can sit with ourselves in peace, without the need for distraction or the presence of others, we begin to recognize our own inherent worth. We see that the joy we seek does not come from outside, but from the deep well within. To embrace solitude is to reclaim our own power. It is a practice of self-reliance, a reminder that we are capable of providing ourselves with the love, care, and attention we often seek from others. In solitude, we learn to trust ourselves, to listen to our own inner voice, and to honor our own needs. This self-sufficiency is not a rejection of others, but a strengthening of our relationship with ourselves, which in turn enhances our ability to connect meaningfully with the world around us. In the end, solitude is not about being apart from others, but about coming closer to oneself. It is a gift we give ourselves, a space where we can breathe, reflect, and grow. When we learn to embrace solitude, we discover that it is not something to be feared, but something to be cherished, a gateway to deeper self-awareness, inner peace, and true happiness. From an early age, we are conditioned to seek approval from the outside world. Whether it's the praise of a parent, the acknowledgement of a teacher, or the validation of friends, we come to associate our worth with the opinions of others. This pattern becomes deeply ingrained, and we start measuring our happiness based on how well we meet the expectations of society. We strive to be liked, to be admired, to fit in. Yet, in this pursuit, we become entangled in a cycle that distances us from our true selves. We hand over the keys to our happiness to those around us, hoping that their approval will grant us the sense of worth we seek. But this is a precarious path. When our sense of self is tied to external validation, we become vulnerable to the shifting tides of others' opinions. We start to mold ourselves to fit the image we think others want to see, abandoning our authenticity in the process. We wear masks, play roles, and suppress parts of ourselves in the hopes of being accepted. Yet, no matter how much approval we gain, it never seems to be enough. We are left with a lingering emptiness, a nagging feeling that something is missing. The truth is, relying on external validation is a form of bondage. It places our happiness in the hands of others, making us dependent on their judgments to feel good about ourselves. And because people's opinions are fleeting and often contradictory, we find ourselves in a state of constant uncertainty. What one person praises, another may criticize. What is valued today may be dismissed tomorrow. In this way, external validation becomes a moving target, always just out of reach, leaving us chasing after an elusive sense of fulfillment. Liberation from this cycle begins with a fundamental shift in perspective. We must recognize that our worth is not something that can be given or taken away by others. It is not contingent upon how many people approve of us, how many accolades we receive, or how well we conform to societal standards. Our worth is inherent, a part of our very being, and it remains constant regardless of external circumstances. When we stop seeking validation from the outside world, we begin to turn inward. We start to listen to our own inner voice, to honor our own values, and to live in alignment with our authentic self. This is not always easy. It requires us to face the discomfort of not being liked or understood by everyone. It demands that we stand firm in our truth, even when it goes against the grain. But in doing so, we reclaim our power. We become the source of our own validation, no longer swayed by the changing opinions of others. As we liberate ourselves from the need for approval, we discover a deeper, more enduring sense of happiness. This happiness is not tied to how we are perceived by the outside world, but rather to the peace that comes from living in harmony with ourselves. It is a quiet confidence, an inner knowing that we are enough just as we are. We no longer feel the pressure to prove ourselves or to earn our place in the world. Instead, we rest in the truth of our own worth. This liberation also transforms the way we relate to others. When we no longer need validation from those around us, we are free to connect with them in a more genuine and meaningful way. We engage with others from a place of wholeness rather than seeking to fill a void. Our relationships become less about seeking approval and more about authentic connection. We give and receive love freely without the fear of judgment or rejection. In the end, the journey of liberation from external validation is a return to ourselves. It is a process of peeling away the layers of conditioning that have told us we are not enough and rediscovering the truth that we have always been whole. When we stop seeking happiness outside of ourselves, we find that it was within us all along. And in that realization, we experience a profound sense of freedom, a liberation that no amount of external approval can ever provide. We live in a world that constantly tells us we are incomplete. From advertisements selling products that promise to make us better, to cultural ideals that suggest we need certain achievements, relationships, or possessions to be whole, we are surrounded by the message that something is missing within us. This belief becomes ingrained in our thinking, leading us to seek fulfillment outside of ourselves. We are taught to believe that happiness lies just beyond our reach. If only we could get that promotion, find that perfect partner, or achieve that ideal image, then and only then would we feel complete. Yet this sense of incompleteness is an illusion. It's a mirage that keeps us in a perpetual state of striving, always feeling that something more is needed to finally make us whole. The idea that we are lacking in some way is a fundamental misunderstanding of who we are. At our core, we are already complete. Nothing outside of us can add to or diminish the essence of who we truly are. This illusion of incompleteness arises because we have been conditioned to look outward for our sense of self. We are told to measure our worth by external standards, by how successful we are, how much approval we receive, or how well we conform to societal norms. But when we base our identity on these fleeting, impermanent things, we inevitably feel a sense of lack. After all, no matter how much we achieve or acquire, there is always something else to attain, some other goal on the horizon. And so we remain caught in a cycle of endless pursuit, never quite feeling enough. The truth is that we are not separate from the wholeness of life. Just as a wave is a complete expression of the ocean, we are complete expressions of existence. There is nothing inherently missing from us. The notion that we are incomplete is a veil that obscures our true nature, preventing us from seeing the fullness of who we are in this very moment. When we cling to the belief that we need something outside of ourselves to feel complete, we overlook the richness that is already present within us. To see through this illusion, we must first recognize that no external thing can ever fulfill the sense of incompleteness we feel inside. While achievements, relationships, and material success can bring temporary satisfaction, they are not the source of lasting fulfillment. True fulfillment arises when we turn inward and reconnect with the deeper reality of our being the part of us that is whole, unchanging, and unconditionally enough just as we are. This realization is not about rejecting the world or abandoning our desires. It's about shifting our perspective. Instead of looking outside for completion, we come to understand that we are already whole. Everything we need to feel complete is already within us, waiting to be recognized. When we stop identifying with the illusion of lack, we can begin to engage with life from a place of fullness rather than deficiency. In this state of wholeness, we no longer seek out experiences or people to fill a void. We approach life with a sense of abundance, knowing that nothing external can add to or take away from who we truly are. Relationships become opportunities for connection, not validation. Achievements become expressions of our creativity, not measures of our worth. We begin to live with a deeper sense of peace, knowing that our value does not depend on anything outside of ourselves. The illusion of incompleteness also keeps us from fully appreciating the present moment. When we are constantly focused on what we believe we need to achieve or acquire in the future, we miss the beauty and richness of what is here now. We overlook the simple joys, the small moments of connection, and the quiet peace that is available to us in every breath. In chasing the next thing, we lose touch with the present, and in doing so, we lose touch with ourselves. Breaking free from this illusion requires a radical shift in awareness. It asks us to question the beliefs we have been taught and to see ourselves in a new light. It invites us to stop seeking outside ourselves for the sense of wholeness we crave and to recognize that we are already enough. When we embrace this truth, we experience a profound liberation. We are no longer caught in the cycle of striving and seeking, but instead rest in the deep, abiding peace of knowing that we are complete just as we are. Silence is often misunderstood. In a world filled with constant noise and endless chatter, silence can feel unsettling, even uncomfortable. We tend to avoid it, filling the spaces between moments with distractions, music, conversation, the hum of technology. We have been conditioned to believe that silence represents emptiness, a void that needs to be filled. But what if silence, rather than being a void, is actually a rich and vibrant space where we can truly come alive? Silence is not the absence of something, it is the presence of everything. When we step into silence, we are stepping into a realm of possibilities, a space where the mind can settle and deeper truths can emerge. It is in silence that we hear the subtle whispers of our own consciousness, the inner voice that often goes unnoticed amid the noise of daily life. In the stillness, we begin to hear ourselves in a way that is not possible when we are constantly engaged with the external world. There is a profound dance that occurs in silence, a delicate interplay between thought and presence. At first, the mind may resist, filling the quiet with its usual stream of thoughts, judgments, and distractions. But if we can remain in the silence, if we can allow the mind to settle without reacting to the thoughts that arise, we begin to experience a shift. The constant mental chatter begins to quiet, and a deeper awareness begins to take shape. This is the dance, the movement from the surface level of the mind to the deeper layers of our being. In this space of silence, we find a connection to something far greater than ourselves. It is as though the boundaries of the self dissolve, and we become attuned to the rhythm of life itself. In silence, we are no longer separate from the world around us. We become part of the flow of existence. This is not a passive state, but an active engagement with the present moment, an immersion in the fullness of life that cannot be experienced through words or thoughts alone. Silence also invites us to confront the parts of ourselves we often avoid. In the quiet, there is no distraction to hide behind, no noise to drown out our fears or uncertainties. We are left with ourselves, our thoughts, our emotions, our vulnerabilities. This can be uncomfortable, even frightening at first. But it is only by sitting with this discomfort that we begin to truly know ourselves. Silence is a mirror, reflecting back to us the aspects of our inner world that we may have long ignored. And in this reflection, we find an opportunity for growth, for healing, and for deeper understanding. As we learn to dance with silence, we also learn to listen in a new way. We begin to hear the world around us with greater clarity, not just the sounds, but the spaces between the sounds. The rustle of leaves, the distant call of a bird, the gentle rhythm of our own breath, all these become part of the music of life, a symphony that we are often too busy to notice. In silence, we become more attuned to the subtleties of existence, the things that go unnoticed in the rush of daily life. Silence is also where creativity is born. It is in the quiet spaces of the mind that new ideas emerge, that inspiration takes root. When we are constantly bombarded by external stimuli, there is little room for the imagination to unfold. But in silence, there is space for new thoughts to arise, for insights to crystallize, for our minds to wander and explore without constraint. The dance with silence is a dance with possibility, with the unknown, with the creative forces that dwell within each of us. And perhaps most importantly, silence is a doorway to peace. In the stillness, we find a calm that is not dependent on external circumstances, a tranquility that comes from within. When we allow ourselves to rest in silence, we are reminded that we do not need to be constantly doing, achieving, or speaking to feel at peace. Peace is not something we find outside of ourselves. It is something we discover in the quiet corners of our own being. To dance with silence is to embrace a deeper way of being in the world. It is to step away from the noise and distractions that pull us away from ourselves and to enter into a space where we can reconnect with the essence of who we are. In this dance, we are reminded that silence is not empty, it is full of life, full of meaning, full of presence. It is in silence that we discover the richness of our inner world, the depths of our own consciousness, and the beauty of simply being. Inner harmony is a state of balance and peace that arises from deep within, untouched by the external chaos of life. It's a serene equilibrium that can only be found when we are in tune with our true nature, when we allow our inner and outer worlds to align. In our daily lives, we are constantly pulled in different directions by responsibilities, by expectations, by the demands of the world around us. This constant push and pull can leave us feeling fragmented, disconnected from ourselves, and at odds with the present moment. Yet the path to inner harmony does not lie in controlling or changing the outside world. It lies in turning inward, in cultivating a relationship with ourselves that is grounded in acceptance, understanding, and stillness. To experience inner harmony, we must first understand that the conflict we often feel is not the result of the external circumstances themselves, but rather our reactions to them. We resist situations, people, or outcomes that don't align with our expectations. We fight against discomfort, uncertainty, and the unknown, hoping to create a sense of control and predictability in our lives. However, true harmony does not come from controlling the world, but from accepting it as it is. This acceptance does not mean passivity or resignation. It means letting go of the struggle against what we cannot change and finding peace in the flow of life as it unfolds. When we resist the present moment, we create inner conflict. Our mind becomes filled with tension. Our emotions grow restless and our body tightens. But when we stop fighting against the current of life and allow ourselves to be fully present, we begin to feel a sense of ease and openness. This is the beginning of inner harmony and effortless alignment with the present, where we can respond to life from a place of calm rather than reactivity. In this state, we no longer view challenges as obstacles, but as natural parts of the unfolding journey. Achieving inner harmony also requires us to cultivate a deep sense of self-awareness. This means learning to observe our thoughts, emotions, and behaviors without judgment. We often act out of habitual patterns, reacting to situations based on old fears, insecurities, or conditioning. These patterns can create a sense of disconnection within ourselves, as we may act in ways that do not reflect our true values or desires. But when we cultivate awareness, we begin to notice these patterns, and in that noticing, we create the space for change. Self-awareness is like a mirror that reflects back to us the parts of ourselves that are out of alignment, allowing us to gently bring them back into harmony. Another key aspect of inner harmony is learning to embrace all parts of ourselves, the light and the shadow, the strengths and the weaknesses, the joy and the pain. So often we reject the parts of ourselves that we deem undesirable. We push away our sadness, our anger, or our fears, thinking that to be in harmony we must only experience positive emotions. But true harmony comes from integrating all aspects of who we are, not just the ones we find pleasant. It is about embracing the fullness of our human experience, understanding that each emotion, each thought has its place in the larger symphony of our being. When we learn to accept ourselves fully, we create an inner environment of peace and kindness. We stop waging war against ourselves, trying to be someone other than who we are in this moment. Instead, we rest in the understanding that we are enough, just as we are. This acceptance brings a sense of wholeness, of unity, and it is from this place that true harmony flows. Inner harmony is not about achieving perfection, but about finding balance within the imperfections. It is about recognizing that life is a dynamic process, constantly shifting and changing, and learning to move with that flow rather than against it. As we cultivate inner harmony, we also become more compassionate and empathetic toward others. When we are at peace with ourselves, we are less likely to project our own insecurities and frustrations onto the people around us. Instead, we can interact with others from a place of openness and understanding. We no longer need others to behave in a certain way to feel good about ourselves, because our sense of peace comes from within. This creates healthier, more harmonious relationships built on mutual respect and authentic connection. Inner harmony is a practice, one that requires patience and dedication. It is not something we achieve once and for all, but something we cultivate over time. It involves making space for stillness in our lives, whether through meditation, mindfulness, or simply moments of quiet reflection. It asks us to listen deeply to our own inner voice, to trust in our own intuition, and to honor the needs of our body, mind, and spirit. Ultimately, inner harmony is a return to our natural state of being. It is the recognition that beneath the surface of our busy minds and turbulent emotions, there is a place of calm and clarity that is always available to us. When we align with this inner calm, we are able to navigate life's challenges with grace and resilience. We no longer seek peace outside of ourselves, but discover it within. And in doing so, we experience a profound sense of freedom, joy, and balance. In an age dominated by technology and social media, the paradox of connection has become increasingly pronounced. We are more connected than ever before, able to reach out to friends and family across the globe at the touch of a button, to share our lives in real time with countless others, and to access an endless stream of information and perspectives. Yet, despite this unprecedented level of connectivity, many people report feeling more isolated and disconnected than ever. This contradiction raises profound questions about the nature of connection itself and the true meaning of being connected to others. At first glance, it seems that technology should bridge the gap between individuals, allowing for deeper connections and a sense of community. Social media platforms provide us with the illusion of closeness as we scroll through curated glimpses into the lives of others, witnessing their triumphs and joys, their struggles and sorrows. But as we engage with these digital interactions, we often find that they lack the depth and richness of genuine human connection. The likes and shares may provide temporary validation, yet they cannot replace the warmth of a real conversation or the comfort of a shared moment in person. This paradox reveals a crucial truth: true connection goes beyond surface-level interactions. It requires vulnerability, authenticity, and presence, qualities that are often diminished in the digital realm. When we communicate through screens, there is a disconnection from the body language, tone of voice, and emotional nuances that convey the fullness of human experience. We may share our thoughts and feelings, but the richness of connection lies in the subtleties that are often lost in translation. As a result, our relationships can feel shallow, lacking the depth that comes from truly knowing and being known by another. Furthermore, the pressure to present an idealized version of ourselves online can create barriers to authentic connection. We curate our lives, choosing only the highlights to share, and in doing so, we may inadvertently alienate others. The fear of judgment or rejection can prevent us from expressing our true selves, leading to a sense of disconnection even among those who are physically close. When we hide behind carefully crafted images, we miss the opportunity to connect with others on a deeper level. Authenticity fosters intimacy, and without it, our connections can feel superficial and unsatisfying. This paradox also extends to our inner lives. In our quest for connection, we may find ourselves constantly seeking external validation from others, looking for affirmation, approval, or love to fill the void within. However, this reliance on external sources of validation often leads to a sense of disconnection from ourselves. When we base our self-worth on how others perceive us, we lose touch with our own inner voice, our own needs, and our own authenticity. True connection begins with a deep understanding and acceptance of oneself, and it is only when we cultivate this internal harmony that we can genuinely connect with others. Moreover, in our efforts to connect with others, we may neglect the importance of solitude. The quiet moments spent with ourselves are essential for fostering a sense of connection to our own thoughts and emotions. It is in solitude that we can reflect, recharge, and come to terms with our inner landscape. When we are comfortable being alone, we can approach our connections with others from a place of wholeness rather than neediness. This balance allows us to engage in relationships without losing sight of who we are, fostering deeper, more meaningful connections. The paradox of connection also prompts us to reconsider the quality of our relationships. In a world that glorifies quantity followers, friends, likes true fulfillment comes from the depth of our connections rather than the number of them. We may find ourselves in rooms full of people yet still feel alone if those connections lack authenticity and resonance. Conversely, a single, meaningful relationship can provide a sense of belonging and understanding that outweighs a multitude of superficial interactions. It is the quality of our connections that nourishes our souls and allows us to thrive. Ultimately, the paradox of connection invites us to explore the intricate dynamics of our relationships with ourselves and others. It challenges us to seek deeper understanding, to cultivate authenticity, and to embrace the beauty of vulnerability. By recognizing that true connection requires both openness and introspection, we can create a more enriching and fulfilling tapestry of relationships. We can find the courage to be our authentic selves and engage in the world with genuine presence, allowing us to bridge the gap between ourselves and others in a way that transcends the limitations of the digital age. In this exploration, we discover that connection is not merely a function of technology or social interaction. It is a state of being that arises from the depths of our humanity. It is a dance between the self and the other, a harmonious exchange that nurtures our souls and enriches our lives. By embracing the paradox of connection, we can navigate the complexities of modern relationships with grace, finding meaning and fulfillment in the authentic bonds we create along the way. As we journey through the intricate landscape of our inner worlds and the relationships we cultivate, we begin to understand the profound nature of solitude, the liberating power of self-acceptance, and the rich dance that silence invites us to join. We discover that true connection arises not from the mere act of reaching out, but from the authenticity we bring to our interactions and the deep self-awareness we cultivate within. Each of these themes intertwines, reminding us that our inner harmony is not dependent on the approval of others or the chaos of the outside world. Instead, it blossoms when we embrace our wholeness, accept our imperfections, and engage with the present moment. The paradox of connection teaches us that while technology may provide us with the illusion of closeness, genuine relationships thrive in vulnerability, empathy, and the courage to be our true selves. In recognizing that we are already complete, we free ourselves from the constraints of external validation and open ourselves to the profound beauty of authentic connection. Ultimately, the journey toward inner peace and meaningful relationships is not a destination but a continuous unfolding. It requires patience, compassion, and a willingness to explore the depths of our being. As we embrace solitude, learn to listen to the silence, and cultivate a sense of inner harmony, we invite a deeper understanding of ourselves and the world around us. In this dance of life, we discover that true fulfillment lies not in seeking connection, but in being fully present with ourselves and others, allowing the richness of our experiences to flow freely. So let us take this journey together, recognizing that the path to inner peace and authentic connection begins within. By nurturing our inner worlds, we can create a ripple effect that transforms our relationships and enriches our lives. In this way, we move beyond the illusion of incompleteness, stepping into the fullness of our existence and embracing the beautiful complexity of what it means to be human.